must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Our ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, laid out a clear agenda for reform, but despite reported and repeated warnings, no action at all was taken. So the United States took the only responsible course. We withdrew from the Human Rights Council, and we will not return until real reform is enacted. For similar reasons, the United States will provide no support and recognition to the International Criminal Court. As far as America is concerned, the ICC has no jurisdiction, no legitimacy, and no authority. The ICC claims near universal jurisdiction over the citizens of every country, violating all principles of justice, fairness, and due process. We will never surrender America's sovereignty to an unelected, unaccountable global bureaucracy.
Trump's decision to come out of ICC, which is International Criminal Court, sends a lot of signals and a lot of happiness to some of us. From time of the inception of ICC, David Matanga and others, I want to thank David Hoyle, my professor, Professor Hoyle in London. Thank you very much for mentoring me to stand firm to discuss the African question on the ICC. It is very important, therefore, for the people of Africa to understand that while you rejoice, while you want to hate Trump, Trump has made it very clear that globalization is not part of his agenda.
America is governed by Americans. We reject the ideology of globalism, and we embrace the doctrine of patriotism. Around the world, responsible nations must defend against threats to sovereignty, not just from global governments, but also from other new forms of coercion and domination. In America, we believe strongly in energy security for ourselves and for our allies.
Today, as we speak, this nation cannot be the same. This nation is paralyzed. This nation needs serious redemption, needs the building of bridges. As a result of the ICC, the anger that was flowing from one end to the other created a problem that we see here, but people don't want to admit. People wait in Africa. Trump is correct. Let's wake up. Let's have a rebuff that delivers to hope so that our people don't perish in the Mediterranean Sea. A rebuff that will bring about peaceful resolution of conflicts, like the conflicts that occur in South Sudan between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. These conflicts don't give us any hope. These conflicts don't give us anything that is yearned for. These conflicts are a pity to Africa. We are lulled into the ICC in 1998 by Kofi Annan. America rejected ICC, stood firm and said, we can give you the money, but we shall not ratify for you because we have institutions. We have failed our own judiciary systems but we want to be judged by another judicial system which has no jury, it has no evidence, it has no separation of powers between the chief prosecutor and the investigative arm, and then with the prosecuting arm. That's the Africa we have.
Africa, coming to you from Nairobi, the capital of Kenya in East Africa. Good afternoon, good evening. I know we have a varied viewers across the world, so you watch us on different time zones, and we appreciate you for tuning in this morning. And wherever you are, if there's anything that is happening, especially in connection to the continent of Africa, I'll be happy if you share with us and the rest of our viewers. Thank you so much. Dr. Matanga will be joining me just in a bit to look at the rest of the news. And of course, in Diaspora Dispatches this morning, we'll be looking at, do Africans respect the result of elections in Africa? We see after every general election, especially when it comes to the presidential results, normally it's very disputed, and like very, rare cases like what we just experienced in South Africa, very rare that elections were done. It was a one-day affair, and the citizens were able to continue with their lives as if nothing happens. But normally that is not what is the case in most Africa countries. After the elections and even before sometimes the official results are announced, and normally it's already chaotic, and different stakeholders in the elections come out to give their own tallies and to give their own results. And by the time the elections are being announced officially, normally a lot of these Africa countries are at chaos, and a lot of things happen after and during the election. So Africans respect the election results in Africa? And if not, what do you think are some of the factors that maybe make us not be very, be very skeptical of some of these results being announced? Sometimes there have been cases where the oppositions, especially, they feel as if the government and the electoral commissions or the electoral bodies, or the bodies that take care of the elections in different African countries, sort of are working in cahoots to defeat the will and the voice of the people. So that has been what majority of the opposition in Africa say. But when you look at cases like Ghana, from one president, there's a president who served one term, and he was able to the next president, who is not serving right now, Akufo-Addo, was able to defeat Mahama earlier, and he served only for one term. So there are cases where it works. The incumbent is able to give up power, because it is said that in Africa, incumbents really never lose, the next elections to give them the second term in countries where majority we have two-term presidential limits. So just give me your thoughts and continue writing to us and tell us your thoughts on do Africans respect the results of elections in Africa, and if not, what do you think are some of the factors that help to propagate, why we don't really accept a lot of these elections in different countries in Africa. So thank you so much. My name is Miriam Magutu, and right now, as we wait for Dr. Matanga to come in, and so that you can dig into that matter, and of course he'll be looking at the judiciary in Kenya and the corruption and the judicial justice, I think, with special reference to Kenya, as he always does. We'll wait for him to come do that. But of course, as we do that, I'll just like us to go through some of the news making headlines in the continent this morning. And we start with the Democratic Republic of Congo. And President Felix Tshisekedi has named a prime minister nearly 4 months after his own inauguration. The veteran politician and current Director General of the National Railway Company, Sylvester Ilunga Ilukamba, was nominated by former President Joseph Kabila Kabila, who has retained a significant power after his coalition won the vast majority of the parliamentary seats. And still in Congo, the UK International Development Secretary Rory Stewart has called for the response to the Ebola outbreak in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo to be stepped up considerably and fast. Describing the outbreak as potentially devastating for the region, he said more money was needed, as well as a British expert staff on the ground, where more than 1,200 have died since August. And we are still in Congo, and the Congolese politician Moise Katumbi has returned to the Democratic Republic of Congo 3 years after he left on self-imposed exile. The former governor of the mineral-rich Katanga province had planned to return in the country last year to run for the president, but he was stopped by soldiers loyal to former President Joseph Kabila. Thousands of his supporters thronged the Lubumbashi International Airport to welcome him yesterday. And in Kenya, the Kenyan government has threatened to deport foreigners found to be running illegal betting businesses. Interior Minister Fred Matiang'i said on Monday that some foreigners had applied for different business permits only to change course when they got their licenses. He instructed the Immigration Department to review foreign work permits and said anyone found to have flouted the rules will be deported. And in Uganda, the United States Embassy in Uganda has said it is aware of reports that an American pastor was distributing an extremely dangerous substance said to be a miracle cure to Ugandans. The UK Guardian reported over the weekend that a pastor had been giving a solution made from industrial bleach, claiming drinking the toxic fluid eradicates cancer, HIV and AIDS, and most other diseases. And in Zambia, President Edgar Lungu has ratcheted up his pressure on foreign mining companies to comply with the recently introduced sales tax to stop their operations. He said he was unhappy that some mining companies in the northern Copper Belt region were downsizing operations and firing workers, partly because of the new tax. And in Egypt, police are inspecting the damage caused by the explosion of a tourist bus near the famous pyramids of Giza, where 17 people were seriously injured on Sunday. There have not been any claims to the attack. And the European Union, EU High Representative to Foreign Policy Vice President Federica Mogherini on Monday started a 3-day visit to the Horn of Africa in Somalia. She met with Somali Prime Minister Hassan Ali Khare, who for talks in the capital Mogadishu. She is expected in Kenya before she moves to Djibouti and wraps up the mission in Ethiopia. It is expected to last between 20th to 22nd May 2019. And in Tanzania, 38 human and civil rights organizations across the globe want the Tanzanian government to address the deteriorating human rights situation in the country. In an open letter written this week to the permanent representatives of member and observer states of the United Nations Human Rights Council, the organizations are asking for action against Tanzania at the Human Rights Council 41st session scheduled for June 21st to July 12th. And in South Africa, supporters of former President Jacob Zuma now say that corruption cases facing the ex-president are politically motivated. During Mr. Zuma's hearing at the Pietermaritzburg High Court on Monday, his supporters hurled insult at the National Prosecuting Authority, calling them dogs, while telling Police Minister Becky Chele to rein in his people to stop prosecuting Zuma. The group supporters were dressed in ANC regalia. And of course, today Malawians are going to the polls to elect a new president in what has been described as one of the country's most unpredictable elections. And the 70-year-old incumbent President Peter Mutharika is running for a second term, but he is being challenged by his own younger vice president, Saulos Chilima, and the opposition leader, Lazarus Chakwera. So that is what is happening this morning from the continent. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is Good Morning Africa. And I was just going through some of the news-making headlines this morning. And of course, I might not have read about Sudan, but talks yesterday still at a stalemate, but they seem to have resumed this morning. So we don't know the latest. But they seem to be disagreeing, especially in matters of the composition of the commission, or rather the transitional, committee that will oversee the leadership of the country in the next 3 years. They seem not to be agreeing, because remember, they agreed that they need a transitional period of 3 years. Both the protesters and the military council agreed to that. Outside of that, the mechanisms and the process and how things will work within the 3 years has not really been agreed on, and it has been a ping-pong back and forth between the military council and the activists and the protesters aside. And on contention, of course, is the formation of the constitution as it is right now. The constitution of Sudan was, is not in effect right now. So they're working on modalities to give the country a new constitution. But before that, the military will be in charge, even as they form the transition government for the next 3 years. They come up with something that will satisfy the larger majority of the Sudanese people. And the reasons as to why they even have found a need to protest against President Omar al-Bashir, they feel that some of their the things that they wanted and the cause that they are charting for has not been met. So it's still a stalemate, but talks have resumed this morning. So we'll give you the latest as we continue to receive. And not much coming from South Sudan, but if you know anything happening in South Sudan, please share with us, and I will share with the rest of Africa. And of course, there's an explosion that happened in Egypt on Sunday, and of course, no group has come out to claim responsibility so far. And a tourist bus was near the famous pyramids of Giza, and the majority of the tourists there were South Africans, about 25 of them, and 17 were seriously injured. No death was reported, and so I think immediately South African, authority had its citizen back to the country, and so the authorities in Egypt are still inspecting the damage caused by explosion, and of course investigations are underway to really see who were responsible for what happened for the explosion on Sunday, and what was the motive behind it. Of course, maybe it is closely related to a terror group, but that is left for the authorities to establish. And there has been worrying reports from Tanzania, and I think we've kept talking about it here on the show. There's an increased perceived human rights abuse and violations since President Pombe Magufuli became the president of Tanzania about 2 years ago. And so now civil rights organizations across the globe want Tanzanian government to address the deteriorating human rights situation in the country. And of course, in an open letter written sometimes, actually last week, by permanent representatives of the member and observer states of the United Nations Human Rights Council, the organization is seeking for action against Tanzania over in the next coming Human Rights Council that is scheduled to happen on June 21 all through to July 22nd. So they are saying now Tanzania government should be asked to respond to some of these queries about human rights violation, and also made to be take responsibility. It's just 2 weeks ago, one of leading opposition figures in Tanzania was hijacked by the roadside. I think he was driving by people who were dressed like police. Later on, he was found in another village somewhere. So there's been a lot of intimidation, and democracy is seen to be sort of shrinking in Tanzania. And you see their recent laws that they passed that even seems to stifle parties in Tanzania. So it is a worrying situation in Tanzania, and now they're taking it, the human rights groups are taking it to the United Nations Human Rights Council, and they're seeking for immediate action against the presidency of President Pombe Magufuli, and they want him to address these matters. And yes, our former president of South Africa was taken to court. Remember, he has so many, scandals, corruption cases that he faces. And right now, yesterday, he was answering to another corruption case that was facing him in court. And his supporters were outside waiting, and they were chanting and, calling the police name and calling the authorities names. And they're saying that these corruption cases that are facing former President Jacob Zuma are politically motivated, and they're saying they have no basis. Remember, President Jacob Zuma had very close ties with the Gupta brothers, some with Indian origins. They have since fled South Africa and went back to India, but they were very corrupt in the manner in which they were, having their dealings, and he was working in cahoots with them in terms of giving them tender and things like that, which were not very they were not following the legal modalities laid by the South African laws. And so he got caught up in that in terms of kickbacks and things like that. And now he's made to answer to some of these charges. But now what is worrying is a group of supporters came in and were there chanting, and they were dressed in ANC regalia. I don't know what that will mean to the ANC as a party. Remember, ANC has been accused of harboring thieves, and a lot of leadership way back from the 25 years it has been in power have been caught up in mega scandals and public abuse, office abuse, and things like that. And so to see that they went there dressed in ANC regalia, I don't know what message they're sending. Remember, President Cyril Ramaphosa just got elected for his second term. He'll be serving his second term, and the inauguration is yet to happen towards the end of this month. And in one of the major things that he promised, especially when he was campaigning, is the fight against corruption that it seems to stifle the growth and development in South Africa, and has brought about the issues of unemployment and things like that, and many evils that are now plaguing South Africa. So corruption is in his top agenda. And that is something that is committed to fight, and we've seen a lot of people being taken to jail. So when you see a former president that is being accused of being involved, and there has been evidence in deep corruption that has affected the public, has ties to the public, Mr. Jacob Zuma, and you see people there coming with the ANC regalia. I don't know what message that sends to the president, and maybe President Cyril Ramaphosa should come out clearly and distance the party with such things. Otherwise, I don't think he'll really succeed, and I don't know what that will do in regards to the support from the larger republic in South Africa. And so Pierre Garanyo saying, Miriam, let me inform you that corruption is in Africa becomes a big problem in our office in African continents. Yes, that is true. Good. Thank you for joining this morning. Tanzania is doing great, and those who don't want Africa to move anywhere are complaining. All right, your views. Yes, a group of human rights activists are actually taking Tanzania to court at the United Nations Human Rights Council, not really to court, but at the council, and they want President Pombe Magufuli to address the several cases of human rights that have deteriorated in Tanzania since he came to power. But Gotwanyu seems to differ with that, and you think President Pombe Magufuli is doing very well in that. And so thank you. Your thoughts, keep writing. And Nganga, I see you this morning. Thank you for joining. Israel Williams, you're saying good morning, and brothers and sisters home and abroad, please support Biafra referendum and save lives, and let us make a better place for our children and generations in future coming again. I think yesterday we had a very successful show in the afternoon, and we were talking about Biafra, and why is it that the world has become very silent when a lot of things are happening in that part of Nigeria in regards to human rights violations and a lot of atrocities. And during the show yesterday, you were giving us statistics that in some parts of Biafra, about 20 people had been murdered that morning. I don't know what is happening this morning, but if there's anything breaking news that is happening in wherever you are, please write me and I will share with the rest of our viewers. So keep talking to me. I remember Dr. Matsanga will be joining me in a very short bit, and when he comes, we'll be looking at the diaspora dispatches. Do Africans respect the result of elections in Africa? Why is it that in most majority countries in Africa, with the exception of some few countries like South Africa, they did the elections and life continued as usual? Opposition parties came out, the DA, the EFF, and they were just happy. They made gains. They congratulated the president, and life continued. But in many African countries, it's a matter of life and death. So after elections, we see a lot of post-election chaos. We see opposition coming out to refute the presidential results, especially. We see them even announcing their winning before the official results are out. So it's normally a lot of chaos. So why is it? What is it that normally advises such actions, and what can be done in regards to embracing democracy and moving forward? Do Africans respect the election results in Africa? So you tell me what you think about that as we wait for Dr. David Matsanga to come for us to have an in-depth conversation about the same. So I'm just going through some of the news making headlines in Africa this morning. I just read the news, and now we're just looking at a few countries as we progress, and we looked at the explosion that happened in Egypt over the weekend, and of course Tanzanian human rights, situation in the country is seen to be deteriorating. This is according to some civil rights organizations that are now going to the United Nations Human Rights Council to complain about the same, and they want President Magufuli to address it. And now, of course, today, Malawi is headed for its elections. And just in a nutshell, let me at what is expected today. Of course, about 6.8 million registered voters are expected to vote in this year's Malawi presidential elections. It's three actually elections happening, not just the presidential. It's three elections happening today, but we just focus on the presidential election. And the country has a population of 18 million people, but 6.8 people are the ones who have been registered to vote. And the 18 million people, 1 million adults are living with HIV, and the country is one of the highest HIV prevalence rates in the world. Actually, Malawi leads. Is one of the countries with a highest prevalence in terms of the spread of HIV and AIDS. Of course, the polling stations have already opened today, 6 a.m. in the morning, and voters have started voting and will have an opportunity to decide the fate of the incumbent President Peter Mutharika, who is battling to hold off two serious rivals in a race that focuses on corruption. There have been a lot of corruption allegations. It is like you've said here, Bilal Garang. It's one of the things that plagues Africans. So Malawi also, the president, his administration has been marred with a lot of corruption allegations. So that is one thing that perhaps will advise the voters on how they'll vote, and the economic development. Remember, Malawi is a very agricultural, but in the recent past, nothing much has been happening. The production in terms of the agriculture industry has really gone down, and it has really affected even the country's food stability. So keep talking to me. And also Malawi, which was ruled 30 years after independence by a single ruler called Hastings Banda, before establishing, it was ruled for 30 years after independence, and then in 1994 they established a multi-party system of democracy. Now, the 78-year-old incumbent, President Mutharika, is running for a second term. Of course, I've mentioned that, but he's being challenged by his own younger vice president, Saulos Chilima, and the opposition leader, Lazarus Chakwera. And remember, in a lot of, like in Kenya here, before you become a president, you must garner at least 50 plus one votes of the entire voting. You must get those votes for you to become a president. If not, then a rerun. But in Malawi, it's not the same. Even the last elections, I think President Peter Mutharika won with about 30-something%. So there's no threshold that you must meet as long as you have the majority of the votes, and then you just the president. So there's no threshold to meet like here or some other countries where you have to garner a certain amount of votes before you become a president. So, yes, and more than half of those who are registered to vote are under the age of 34, and of course, the youth's votes are going to be a very significant factor in today's elections in Malawi. Malawians are going to the polls today to elect a new president in what has been described as one of the country's most unpredictable elections. It's very difficult to tell as it is right now. Samuel Lay, you're saying when majority of African are silent, corruption and dictatorship will continue. Thank you so much, Samuel, and thank you for joining us. And as you write to me, please, it's always a pleasure to know where you're watching us from. I said before, Dr. Matanga will be joining me in a bit, and we'll be looking at do Africans respect the results of elections in Africa? And if not, why? What do you think are some of the reasons why it's very difficult for the opposition or for the losers to come out and say, you know what, I congratulate the president for winning these elections. It was fair and square, and we wish him well. And as opposition, we'll work together to see that we have a successful country. Why is it so difficult? Do they even write, as normally Dr. Matanga would have asked here several times, do they normally have even two speeches, one for the winning and one for losing? Like, because it is a competition, anything can happen. It's like our leaders, when you go to these elections, we just go with one mind, I must win. And maybe because of our electoral systems and our governance systems and the winner take it all sort of politics that really makes it a matter of life and death. It's a do or don't. Like, there's no losing. It's winning or winning. And if you've not won, then it becomes a problem. And that's where you hear stories of post-election violence, chaos, and, the unfortunate things that normally accompanies a lot of African elections. And so we'll talk about that. Malawi today goes for its election. Of course, I've said that. And there are about seven, presidential candidates that are participating in this year's elections, but only three, of course, stands out. The incumbent, Peter Mutharika, and his former Vice President, Saulos Chilima, and the opposition leader, Lazarus Chakwera. So let's see that. And you've seen that about 6.8 million voters have registered to vote in a country that has a population of 18 million, with 1 million of that population having HIV and AIDS. And Malawi is one of the countries that has the highest prevalence when it comes to the HIV and AIDS virus. But that notwithstanding, they're going to the elections today, and so we'll keep you posted as we continue to get the latest from that country. And something also interesting yesterday happened in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The former opposition leader and politician Moise Katumbi has returned to the Democratic of Congo yesterday. He has been on a 3-year they're saying it's self-imposed exile, but we know the former president Joseph Kabila was after Moise Katumbi. So yesterday it seems as though President Felix Tshisekedi has come out really and is trying to reach out to the opposition, is trying to reach out to countries that have had frosty relationships before with DR, and is trying to wipe the slate clean and to start afresh and to build new bridges. And that is what he seemed to be doing, President Felix Tshisekedi. I don't know how that will work out, especially with the former president Joseph Kabila, seeing that he's the one who actually drove Moise Katumbi to go to exile. And now President Tshisekedi has, allowed this man to come back, and of course, he has promised him he'll be protected and he's not going to be persecuted over whatever it is and the qualms that he had with the previous government. And Tshisekedi seems to be going against everything Mr. Joseph Kabila, used to do or want. We've seen him reaching out to Uganda. We've seen him reaching out to other countries that have been at loggerheads with the DRC's former administrations. And now this was his president Kabila's arch rival, and Tshisekedi have allowed him to come back home. I remember Moise Katumbi is the former governor of the mineral-rich Katanga province, and he's been away for 3 years. And last year he wanted to come back to contest for the presidency, but he was stopped at the border by the loyal soldiers of former President Joseph Kabila. And yesterday his supporters, I was watching the news, even right now you can see the images, right from Lubumbashi International Airport, a whole contingent, a whole crowd was waiting for him. He would think he's the president. So that tells you how popular Mr. Moise Katumbi has been, especially in the Congolese politics. And that must have been a serious threat to former President Joseph Kabila. Remember, the elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo were supposed to have happened in 2016, but the president kept postponing them. So they happened on December 30th last year, 2 years after the official date. And before that, of course, Moise Katumbi wanted to come back and contest for that. Kabila's government could not allow that to happen. And then voila, and now we have President Felix Tshisekedi, who signed a working agreement together with the former president. And also now his hands are very tied because, President Joseph Kabila's party has a hold of the country's governing system. He has the majority in the governors, he has the majority in Senate, he has the majority in Parliament. So anything that the sitting president now wants passed, he really must be in good terms, and he must work. He has no choice. He must work with the leadership of President Joseph Kabila, if at all he wants to have anything done in that country. And remember this person, because yesterday he named the prime minister 4 months after his inauguration. Remember this person, President Joseph. Normally in Congo, the party with the majority, they get to give the name of they get to give the prime minister. But the person that President Joseph Kabila had suggested, President Tshisekedi refused to accept, but Kabila wasn't, moving. So President Tshisekedi was forced to have that guy as the prime minister, and so his name is Sylvester Ilunga Ilukamba, and he was nominated by former President Joseph Kabila, who has retained significant power after his coalition won the vast majority of the parliamentary seats. So Tshisekedi had no choice, and so the guy was sworn in. I mean, he's been named now as the incoming prime minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So politics of Democratic Republic of Congo. I think it's a country where the rest of not just Africa, but the rest of the world is very keen on just looking and seeing the happenings in DRC. And for the first time, this was the elections that actually there was a smooth transition of power without a bloodshed of things like that. So that was kudos. But we saw even after elections, the official opposition leader Martin came out. Fayulu came out and said the elections were rigged, and according to France and the Catholic Church, which had put its own monitors in the different polling stations, said, you know what, the official figures that they have, the results that they had showed that Martin Fayulu was leading, but that was contrary to what the Electoral Commission in the DRC announced. So this also forms the basis of our Africa Diaspora Dispatches conversation today. Do Africans respect the result of the elections in Africa? Fayulu came out and said, no, I do not recognize those results, because according to what the results we had from our people who were on the ground, I seem to have been winning, and France came out to support that. Even the African Union, remember, they're very controversial, even in the statements they were making at that time, and they said no. The Electoral Commission in the DRC should not even announce the official presidential elections, because they were doubting them. According to them, they were not really what the people of the DRC had voted. And so the AU said, you know what, don't be in a hurry. And so even during the inauguration of President Felix Tshisekedi, even the AU leadership was not there, and a lot of African leaders were not there. And so it was very controversial, but at least it was peaceful as it is. And of course, Martin Fayulu, the official opposition leader, is still protesting the elections he's not agreed to. So that is a Congo for you. So now with the return of the politician Moise Katumbi, will this change the dynamics of the DR politics? We'll see even as time develops. And is he going to join the government side, or is he going to work things out, work together with the now opposition leader, official opposition leader Martin Fayulu? Well, that is yet to be seen. He just returned to the DRC yesterday after 3 years of self-imposed exile. All right, and I wish other country. Of course, Kenya, the government yesterday came out and threatened to deport foreigners found to be running illegal betting business. Betting business in Kenya has become like the in thing. And you see, I was shocked to learn that 80% of these betting companies are actually owned by foreigners. Apparently, they take permits to come and do other businesses, but when they come to the country, they change them. And even you see the addiction that it has become to, especially the younger people, even the older ones, I'm shocked actually, are so much addicted to this betting, It's unbelievable. So the government seems to think that it's running out of control. And not just in Kenya. Remember, earlier this year, even in Uganda, our President Yoweri Museveni said, you know what, the betting companies that are still there, when your license comes to an end, they may not even renew your license in Uganda, because it was becoming a very big problem in Uganda as it is now in Kenya. And so the government just realized things are getting out of control, and young people are very much sucked into this betting. And gambling is an addiction that sometimes even people go for therapy for, to help you come back to normal. And I've seen people lose a lot of things, lose homes, lose what, because people gamble. And betting is one form of gambling, because you put your money and you really don't know if you're going to win or lose. And, it's very enticing, especially to the younger generation. And so some of the changes they wanted to make is to stop the endorsement. These betting companies, they normally use celebrities or people who are celebrated or people who are looked upon by especially the younger generation to be as their brand ambassadors. So the government is seeking to remove that, which of course was supposed to be effective the end of this month, but has been pushed to the end of next month, so that the betting companies forthwith stop using celebrities as their brand ambassadors, because they seem to lure these young people so much into the betting world. So the Kenyan government threatened to deport all these foreigners found to be running illegal betting businesses. And Interior Minister Fred Matiang'i said yesterday that some foreigners who have applied for different business permits only come here and then they change course. And 80% of the betting industry in Kenya is owned by foreigners. So that is the latest this morning from Africa. I'm just going to take a very short break, and when I come back, we'll look at what is left for the show. Maybe we'll take a look at the local newspapers, and of course Dr. Masanga will be joining me very soon. And Zachariah Magokyo saying actually the dictator remained right now in Africa is President Museveni of Uganda. All right, you believe? And the president of we have president of what do you call it? I'm forgetting the long-serving where Yahya Jammeh is right now. Yes, that is the longest-serving dictator we have in Africa. And also Mr. Paul Biya of Cameroon, I think, is the second longest-serving president in Africa. Any president that has served so long, they turn out to be dictators. They have to protect their interests, because when you've overstayed, there meant to be other things that must have happened, all this time that might not be very good. So you have to stay longer and protect. So that brings, the element of dictatorship. So all these countries that you've seen have had long leaders serving for several years. Normally it comes with an element of dictatorship. So that is something also we look at in respect to do Africans respect the results of elections in Africa. Abdisamad Ali, hello to you. Thank you for joining. I think from Mogadishu. Dawid Dejene, you're saying even my country, Ethiopia, corruption. Oh, you're saying even in Ethiopia, corruption is like in Kenya. Okay, tell us more. And you're also saying, I know every African country, corruption too much, but Kenya too much. I hope we'll fight corruption. All right. Or maybe just because in Kenya we have the space and the democratic space and the freedom of speech space that we're actually able to talk about these things. Remember, a lot of these African countries, like you've mentioned, they're one of our viewers, there's a problem with, dictatorship. They do not allow the free moving of information. Like you cannot bring a spotlight to some of these cases because a lot of them involve the government. So if you do, even as a media house, there are serious ramifications, and the punitive laws that make it very difficult for you even to talk about some things. So maybe it's because in Kenya we have that freedom, that space that we're able to talk about these things freely. And so maybe, yes, could be. Abdi Samad. Yes, I confuse you with another of our viewer. And guess what? The other day, while we were talking to him, I thought he was now from Oslo, but he told me, no, he's from Mogadishu. So today I assume you're from Mogadishu. And no, you're the one from Oslo. So how is Oslo this morning? Thank you so much for joining. Dominique John, you're saying Cameroon president, but the worst is Kir of South Sudan. All right, we'll talk about that when I come back after the break. Please do not go very far. Good morning, Africa. We'll return in a few.
We discuss Africa. We see what ails Africa. And today, this afternoon, we want to see whether Sudan will permanently remain a sick child of Africa. Is it a permanent sickness? Can we resolve the issues of Southern Sudan? Is it something that has gone wrong for 200 years? There has always been a problem in Southern Sudan, in that great region, starting from all the way the Alimadi Wars and the rest of all what happened until today. Peace seems to be elusive. Why has UN taken slow action? Why hasn't UN set up a tribunal? We want to see a tribunal that will make sure that Southern Sudan people are accountable. Those who committed crimes against the human beings. 20,000 Sudanese perished. They are perished. They are not accountable. Nobody can account for them. And we cannot sit here, go on hammering peace agreements without mechanisms of accountability. If we set a tribunal for Sierra Leone, for Rwanda, for Camera Rouge, we need somebody to stand up for the poor masses, the masses that have died, the masses that continue to die, the masses that are being brutalized, murdered, maimed on a daily basis by marauding armies of both Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. There must be an accountability. You are not going to sit here and tell people there is no accountability in Southern Sudan. There must be a tribunal. Why do we run to harass countries of Kenya? Put ICC on Kenya, put ICC on this country, put ICC on Central African Republic. Why have we delayed on putting a tribunal for Southern Sudan to find out who is killing, who has been killing, how they have been killing people? Let me speak for the people in Southern Sudan, the women, the children who have not gone to school, the children who have no medicine, the children who have nothing, who have been running since 2013, and the war cannot end because of two people. Let them face the tribunal. I'm not going to keep quiet as a Pan-African to see Southern Sudan being maimed, being tortured, being cut, dismembered, and we keep quiet and watch people put images of people, of malcontents singing to us in Uganda, in Kenya, in Ethiopia, in South Africa, telling us they have money. Let them face the international tribunal and tell the tribunal who gave them the guns, where they buying them, how they were killing people. Enough is enough. Enough is enough for Africa. We have had enough. There is no need of that anymore. Enough is enough. And if people have died, they will not cry. We people who are left on planet Earth must cry for them. We must find justice for them, we must make sure that there are leaders who go on bragging on television stations all over the world, who are accountable. They must be behind bars.
First of all, let me thank you. I've prepared 2 papers which I believe will be circulated because they'll not be projected. But if you can see, first of all, I want to agree with the Honorable Minister. I've done 2 pictorials. One of them is described as Africa at the dinner table. And if you look at Africa at the dinner table, Africa is on a plate and it is meat. And the diners at the dinner table are France, the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union, the Chinese, and progressively the Arabs. And my second picture is the African hotspots. It's not visible from there. But if you look at Africa today, and you make a clean sweep with your mind, there are different conflicts of different intensity in Somalia, in northern Mauritania, in northern Mali, in Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Guinea-Bissau, in the Cameroons, in South Sudan, and one can go on and on. And there is a sense in which Africa has always been alive to the question of interference. I will refer this audience, particularly those who are starting, to take time and read the 32-odd speeches that were made in the month of May 1963 by the then heads of states and government of independent African states, the 32 of them. And there are 2 speeches that I want to isolate for this presentation. One was by David Dacko of Central African Republic. And in thanking Emperor Haile Selassie and Kwame Nkrumah on that day, he said that we must never forget that the colonial power has not left us. We must recognize that he did not go willingly. And if we don't check them, they'll come back again. And what would little Central African Republic do against them? Today, he is right. Today, if we remember the activities of France and how they propped up the regime of Jean-Bedel Bokassa, he was right. Today, as the Honorable Minister has indicated, Africa remains the only continent in the world that is referred to in these terms, Anglophone, to mean that we are a sphere of our erstwhile colonizers. About 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting of the Commonwealth in London, England. And a friend of mine who is an Anglophile sent me the photograph very gleefully, saying this is a meeting of 53 equal states. I told him, no. If it was so, why is it that the leadership of the Commonwealth is hereditary rather than rotational? In other words, in the minds of the British, her former colonies are still under her tutelage. And I want to submit to us that in the minds of what I'll call the conceptual West, they think they have a divine duty to instruct Africans what to do. True. And in the minds of many African leaders, they think that they have a divine duty to accept what they are told. That, in my view, is what the Honorable Minister was talking about, the mindset. And this is something that has been examined. We have seen France and its very pernicious presence in Africa. We know what they did in Burkina Faso against Thomas Sankara. We know what they did in Mali or the Sudan against Modibo Keita or against Sekou Touré in Guinea. pernicious to the core. The Portuguese, we know what battles had to be fought in that area. And let me put this very bluntly. When the former leader of Portugal, Marcelo Caetano, was asked, why can you not allow the colonies to gain independence? This is what he said in substance. As I have examined world history over the years, the following have emerged: that the Caucasians have been responsible for monumental discoveries in the development of man. So have the Chinese, so have the Arabs. But the Africans have been responsible for nothing. They are only fit as hewers of wood and drawers of water. And I want to submit to you who are present here that in the conceptual West's unguarded moments, or guarded moments, that is what they think. And that is how they relate to Africa. So the whole idea that they will interfere is something that they think is their God-given duty. I said there were two speeches in 1963 that I wanted to refer to. I referred to David Dacko. The second one was the speech by Kwame Nkrumah. And Kwame provided the solution. He did not complain about colonialism. He said, we must live here with one army, with one command. We must live here with one currency. We must live here with one currency, one country. I do not know where its capital will be, but I suggest Leopoldville or Bangui. Other leaders may have their thoughts. Kwame was right, but who listened to him? Several years down the line, and I've said it in my paper, there were coup d'etats which were engineered, there were mutinies which were engineered, and other forms of destabilization. And I want to believe that the person who actually said it very well in the 1980s was the former American President Ronald Reagan. He said, the United States of America does what is in her best interest. And I agree with him. Does Africa do what is in her best interest? Do African leaders do what is in the best interest of Africa? Interference.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Welcome back. This is Good Morning Africa, and right now I'm joined on the set with Dr. David Matanga so that we can look at the rest of the show. Dr. Ari, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, viewers, wherever you were. And I'm sorry for the delay, but we are on time. In the last hour, we shall be looking at the topic by name, do Africans respect the results of elections on the continent? Do we respect the results? Mm-hmm. Already, if you look at the elections in Africa, we already have a problem. But before that, we shall take another 20 minutes also talking about Kenya. DCI officers fly to Dubai in gold probe. Okay? Corruption and the justice systems in Kenya. The DCI has done its best. Every time it brings up cases, tries. I had to listen to an argument between the senator of Kakamega and the CIDs who went to arrest him. They are the same CIDs who have been looking for him, who have been arresting him every day. I also used to have the same policeman in 1987 in London. Every day when I'm on the road, this policeman stops me. Every time, even when my car had no problem. So one day, I came out of the car, he arrested me. Then I said, my friend, have you been told to be only looking for me? And guess what? He was not a white policeman. He was a Jamaican policeman. So the worst thing in London for you to do is to be arrested or to have makosa with a Jamaican or a policeman who is not white. We say racial discrimination in London, or they don't like blacks. But this was a policeman, a Jamaican black guy like mine. But because me, I come from Africa, he comes from Jamaica, he was born in London, the guy harassed me all the time. I changed these cars on my cars everywhere until I said, today we shall finish it on the road. I told him, my friend, now tell me, until his friend told him, now, boss, you want what? I said, what do you want? What do you want? Eh? What do you want from me? Every day you tell me this, you tell me this. You stop my car every day. What have I done wrong? What? I asked the guy, his friend said, please, let's go. This guy has no problem. Say, okay, David, please, for you, it's okay, we should sort it out. I said, no, let's finish it at the police station. So I saw the argument between Senator Malala and the CIDs who were sent. Senator Malala says the CIDs were sent by Ruto, by Deputy President Ruto. And the CIDs who went for him are all from one tribe.
Does Ruto have the power to send?
I don't know.
CIDs?
So I can play the clip. I don't know whether, Stephen, you have seen that clip.
Yes.
Production team, you saw the clip.
Oh, you have the clip with you?
Yeah, I don't know how to transfer it to Stephen.
Okay.
But it is here. The clip is very clear. It talks about, Senator Malala is arguing with, the point I'm bringing is the criminal corruption, the criminal justice system of Kenya.
Yes.
What is it that is lacking that makes everybody fight the other? Because as we speak now, there's the NTV was showing this clip. It was on NTV. Stephen, you can even pick it from there. It is there on NTV when they were arresting Malala. Malala was saying, you are the same man who has been arresting me. Okay. Yesterday you had a meeting. We know what you are. Even the intelligence told me you were coming for me. I was aware.
Or during that argument he was seen to be having with the police officers.
Yes.
That's what he was telling them in Kisumu. In
Kisumu, you saw that one.
Yes.
Yeah, he told them that we know, but go and tell DP Ruto that there is nothing you'll do. I will not join you. This is Senator Malala now.
Okay.
I am bringing this point because we have now politicized all these things.
So he will not join them in the party, or he
will
not defend.
Even if you are intimidating me.
Okay.
He was saying this is an intimidation tactic being used against him. And that is what he's wondering why he is being targeted. So the situation here, Miriam, is there's something going on which is not very right. The CIDs get a case. A few weeks ago, a few months ago, we are on this error and the Kemroro, Sujui Dam, what? Now this dam thing is gone.
I think this morning, they're investigating the Galana Kalalu Dam.
Yes.
Somebody is being questioned.
That was this one hot?
Both of them have very scandalous, but
this one was hot, yes. Or what?
Yes.
It became hot for the CIDs to handle. They left. So I am wondering what is going on, what is happening about the criminal justice system versus corruption. Are we in the right place? Are we fighting the right things? Are we doing the right things? What is the problem here? Those are the questions. That's why I say corruption and criminal justice system. Are there officers in the forces? Yeah, that's the argument. That was when he was being released. But when he was being arrested, it was another saga altogether. So, these are some of the things that we need to ask. is there something that is not coordinating within the systems of the CID?
And I think that has been the problem, because the politicians want to politicize everything. It comes to corruption, it has been politicized. It comes to the judicial system, politics have found its place, and it is in the center place. So it sort of diverts us away from the real issues, from the real investigations, as we see even with now the gold scandal. Politicians have found their way in there, and when you listen to the story, the guy who was initially involved in that deal was just doing it on his own private thing. That's what he does for a living. And now politics found its way, and it's becoming very difficult even for the investigative bodies to really get to the bottom of it. And it's a good thing now the DCI officials have flown to Dubai to probe and see what's really going on. I think it's just the problem of politicking everything. Everything is just politicized in the country. So let's just see how that will play out. So if that is what Malala said, well, that is a war that he'll have to fight out with the DP Ruto as it is.
So when we talk about why have people turned this entire thing into a circus? Why? What is going on? Why are we having it? I'm still, the thing of Malala would make you very happy today, because, hey, the guy, I couldn't believe that that Malala could stand his ground and say the truth. But he said it. Anyway, corruption and justice systems in Kenya. Do we finalize each and everything, then jump to another thing? How many cases have we left in the middle? How many cases have we completed?
Corruption.
How many do we think about? KPLC. When we arrested 11-14, the whole football club of Zambia, including one minister said it is a whole football club that is gone, Miriam. How many cases do we have today?
Have been persecuted successfully in our
Yes.
courts.
So there is a problem. We must look at the law. The law must be looked at. People must find avenues of discussing the law in Kenya in order to help in the fight against corruption. You will take these people. The other time we had a very high scandal. The scandal was the scandal of fake currency. Now, if you ask about that case of fake currency,
It has been overshadowed.
it has been overshadowed by fake gold. Yesterday we had smelters, gold smelters. What is in this country? What is not here? Miriam, what do you sleep? You people who sleep in this country, somewhere there in Pumwani, in Ngara, in Madare, what is not in this place? If you can have a gold smelter, gold smelter in a house.
Gold smelter in a house.
You saw them. Did you see the police are now showing us someone is making gold from his house? What has come of this type of life? What type of life are we having as Africans?
Interesting times in Africa. A gold smelter in the house. That is
I don't know how you missed this.
probably watching a different channel, but that is very interesting.
Yeah, it was.
The daring.
There was a gold smelter. I don't know whether our production team can pick it. There was a gold smelter. The owner of the house ran away. They found the gold, how they smelt it, turn it into, put the gold on the bars.
And is it the real gold or?
Yes, they put some little gold on the bar. Oh, so when you come from Dubai, tough like the sheikh there, you just send your weka kwa gari.
And then you go, you find out.
Yes.
80% is fake.
Not even 80. 99% is fake because they have done
It's just the
coated.
The quoting is...
Yeah, the machines, the CID yesterday. So there is some connection between the government agencies. There are people, for example, all these things. And let me go back to the one thing, neighborhood watch. What's the problem with the neighborhood watch?
I think we lost it.
The Nyumba Kumi. All these boxes were being heaped to where?
And you never, because they're very big boxes.
Yes.
Very unusual.
When they were carrying these boxes, the neighbors near these houses, couldn't they be suspicious that there is something which is not very right?
I think it's just the mentality of Kenyans. I just want to sit here and mind my business. And when the president came out and said, you know what, security begins with you, I wish Kenyans will stop and really interrogate this sentence. Before you call on the police and complain about the insecurity and what is happening in where we're living and whatever it is that involves security, you realize even us as citizens, we have a part to play to make sure that we are secure. And when we see things that are unusual happening in our neighborhoods, our places of work, people we know, but we're seeing they're acting a bit unusual, we have a responsibility as a citizenry of a country to make sure that we work with the law enforcers and see that we stop something that could even happen that would hurt a lot of people. And that's how terrorism to some degree started to thrive in this country until the government came very hard on it. Because Kenyans, we just like minding our own business. We see something, but we're like, we are so desensitized and so unattached to these things that it's really worrying. So when you see these houses and even those huge boxes, if you see them coming and they're like 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 of them, and that doesn't raise any suspicion, you don't find it important to go even report to the nearest police station, then even we have a problem. Even as Kenyans, we have a problem in terms of how we even look at our own security, because that would worry me. If that was me and I'm seeing my neighbor and probably I know what they're doing for a living and it does not involve what I'm seeing them bringing inside the house, or whatever they're bringing seems very suspicious, and I just go to sleep see if everything is okay, then that speaks a lot on who we are as a people.
Thank you very much. And we come back to, I think the gold scandal is really golden. Yesterday, you can see for yourself, that was fake currency. Is it really fake at times? The owners claim it wasn't fake.
What happened to that case when he said this case cannot proceed until he gets his real money?
Yes.
What happened to that case?
I mean, that's where I brought in this for Kenyans. They should take part in it to tell us, yes, what do we do with our criminal justice system? Surely. A man reaches the court, he said, my gold was not fake. Then it brings to you a question. That part of the problems that you have today, that you see people fighting each other, Raila group versus the DP group, there is something very seriously working internally underneath. The groups that have been raided are mostly from one angle. I'm told there's a silent raids that have taken place that people don't tell us how much they lost.
Silent raids?
Yes. Silent raids, yes. Where they come to your house, they know you have millions, you have stashed. Someone went to a fundraising and he tried to give the money, but the money was as cold as ice.
It was in the freezer?
No, I don't know, as cold as ice. I'm exaggerating a bit. But the money was very cold.
They store it in the freezer?
No, it means damp, cold and damp. So it means they are put in underground. Center in Nairobi and confiscates material. I told you. The pictures are there. They have even a gold smelter. This is becoming very sophisticated banditry economy. The former Chief Justice was very right. He said he saw these things because some of the cases that were coming before him were worrying. Bandits. You saw the picture doing the rounds of Otieno, Mr. Gerard Otieno.
Oh, the one,
the wedding man.
His wedding photos.
You see the person who was standing in the wedding.
That was a real photo, not Photoshop.
I don't know. I did not want to look at it.
I saw the photo.
It looked Photoshop. Someone placed, they just placed the deputy president. No, I don't think so.
That was a real photo.
No, they were invited. He invited people for that. I remember very well, yes.
Okay.
So you can see. Now, it brings me to a very serious question. That the security of the big bosses, if you are going to take a selfie with the boss, part of the problem that we see here is the mistake of the Jubilee Party itself. We in the Jubilee Party have been telling Jubilee Party all along, from 2013, that they don't have a communication strategy. They have showbiz.
PR stands.
Yeah, showbiz. Oh, Your Excellency, can you now in tent number 2, there is so and so. This is where we got these people, like that guy taking selfies with the president. No, wait.
Yes.
Let me bring my argument.
Yes.
These guys go and pay. I told you a few days ago. A card, a VVIP card for a function in Kenya goes to 100,000 shillings. And let the government check on some of these things that take wrong men to a wrong place, to a right place, then they commit even crime by taking the president's photographs. Gerard Otieno, this other man, and another one, and another one. These are the people who should not even be allowed near the president's tent. But you find these guys in the VVIP.
VVIP.
Yes, seated near the president. You who has been working hard for this nation, who has been insulted, you have been honorably given that card to go there. When you reach this function, you don't find a seat.
So they work in cahoots with the protocol.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is something that we must tell out. We must say it so that the president handlers and the state house control and others should handle this. There are people who should not be going to these functions in state house. They should sit very far from where the president is, because they are conmen. They use the president's photographs to con people. When you have that's why I don't go for any function. Don't call me. If I want, yes, I will meet the president in AU. If I take a selfie in AU, African Union, fine. But no, I'm telling you, these guys go for photos, but their aim, Miriam, is to just get a selfie with Ruto. If I get a selfie with Ruto and pick that picture, drive up to one factory and say the president has sent me, the vice president has sent me deputy, money will be given. So the guy there will remain saying the president alikuja hapa alitoa pesa. They are doing it. Society is rotten. So I don't know whether you have been to those functions, which I believe you have. But depending on the card where they give you either D or E or C or B, the dais, they give you a card, you go smiling, you wear your nice suit, you find there women seated who should not be even near there.
What is wrong with women seated?
No, some of them are the local slave queens in town. These guys have brought slave queens to sit in VIP place. What are they doing there? These are the people who say yesterday I was there, you saw me here with the picture. The president's security should change that. Pictures should only be taken of Raila with someone who is worth. This allowing selfies are the ones causing us a problem.
By the level and you see how much the photos are being, because like a person like Zahir, he made sure he's taken photos or selfies with every top politician in this country. This was very intentional. Now that when you look at it, it's very intentional.
But how does he arrive there?
But he was running as a member of parliament in some constituency in Kisii, so maybe that must have given him access to the politicians. And being that he has a lot of money, sometimes.
But I've told you they pay.
You pay your way to them.
He paid one card or two cards 100,000 shillings to a man who is talking of 400 million. What is 100,000 shillings?
It's change.
It's cheap.
It's change.
And they are friendly to all these men who are in the presidential PPC something. All those technical directors. Hey.
Are very hungry.
Yes, hungry people.
Yes.
Kuja.
We'll get you the best.
Tutaonana huko. We shall see each other in a billionaire club. Big club. Anamuingiza. Yet they are doing a very bad damage on the president's name. And these are the things that we cannot keep quiet about anymore. We don't want the president's name to be dragged into things that is not involved in. It degrades. It's degrading the name of the president. Yet we can help so much. It's people like this. What has killed Jubilee up to today is communication strategy. I don't know when they will get it, but I think I have talked my best. All these things, projects falling to pieces, is communication strategy. Not that the projects are not very good. These are very good projects, but they lack communication. Jubilee fails to communicate to its people. The housing levy is not bad. Every house, every country taxes. But now, if you are going to tax a man who has a house already, he'll tell you why I'm buying it for who.
And the manner in which those houses will be distributed.
Yes. And then you have a PS.
It's like a betting thing.
A PS coming to a national television telling you that there is a problem.
Yes.
What type of life is this?
They need a proper communication channel. And that is what even some Kenyans were complaining about, even in regards to Huduma number. It's the manner in which it was being communicated to the public that made some Kenyans not really understand the essence of Huduma number. So, I think...
Hello?
I got this number from the internet of this radio man in Kenya, Nairobi.
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, this is the television. This is the television station. Go ahead.
Okay. Please, do you have a WhatsApp number?
That's the one you are calling on.
Okay. I'm going to add you to WhatsApp now. Then I will send some money through Western Union. You'll be able to connect it, right?
Can we call you on this number?
Yes, you can call me on this number.
Thank you very much.
What's her
You
name?
are called. What's your name?
It's okay.
Njoke. Thank you very much. God bless you.
And God bless you all too for the work you are doing for Biafra land.
Okay, thank you.
Does she know we're live right now? Maybe she could contribute to the show.
Can you contribute to the show now? We are live.
The elections in Africa. Hi, what's your name again?
Are you live now?
Yes.
You're live.
Oh my God. Okay. Ask me what's happening.
Yes. What the killings in Biafra?
Yeah.
What is the situation and what do you want us to do to help more? We have done our best, publicized the killings that are taking place in Biafra. Is there any more demonstration? I can see you on number. You are on this number and you are not in Nigeria. What else can we do in the diaspora?
I'm not in Nigeria.
Yes, I know.
Every day I hear from my people at home. They call and tell me how many people they have killed in villages around
Yes.
the state. It's not only the Igbo people they are killing. You understand?
Okay.
They are killing everybody in the south, even including the Yoruba people.
Okay.
Their villages are being ravaged.
Okay.
All of them.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my sister. I am going to call you after the show, and I give you the details on where you can make your contribution.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you all.
All right. I didn't know she was talking about a contribution.
Yeah, and our viewers, in case you're wondering what really just happened there, yesterday we had a very engaging and a very successful show, and we're looking at Biafra and why is Africa especially been silent on what has been happening in Biafra land. And the show was massive. We received a lot of feedback from our viewers, and I think this is a matter that we'll continue talking about until we see some progress being made in terms of, the independence of Biafra land. Of course, it has been 52 years since the start of secession. The yearning for secession in Biafra land and Biafra war happened 52 years ago. That was in 1967, and so far not much progress has been made. And every day, even yesterday in the morning while we were talking about it, we received very disturbing statistics coming from there. A lot of people had been murdered and continues to be murdered. So that is something that we will continue to address and talk about.
So thank you very much, viewers, wherever you were. That was one of our viewers who likes our program. Mm-hmm. And we encourage you also, when you see we need to send more, we shall make a general appeal. We need to send more journalists, undercover journalists, into Biafra, into Nigeria, to find out what exactly is taking place on the ground. So we shall seek a contribution. Whatever contribution that you make through our PayPal, it will arrive us here. And we shall actually write back to you to thank you, or we shall thank you publicly for your contribution. Whatever amount, $1, $2, all of you are many. We can make a change. We can continue to find, to unearth all these killings that are taking place in Africa. Thank you very much. That is how we are, and that's how we operate. Mm-hmm. Let's come to
Africa diaspora.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Introduce the topic.
So do Africans respect the results of elections in Africa? And if not, why? There has to be a reason why.
Because we are not yet trained. We have not reached the level of maturity. 66 years, we still think of tribes. 66 years, we still think about what is killing people in Nigeria. What? Buhari is killing people thinking that these are Igbos. Instead of thinking they are Nigerians, they are being called Igbo. Go and kill them because he's a Fulani. The killings in DRC Congo, the Banamulenge are fighting the other Congo. Katuzi, the man of Katanga province, Moise Katumbi,
is back.
Thinks of his tribe, of the Katanga people. How can you have an election? How can you honor results? If the Katanga president is not through, you can't own the results. Kenya here, we had a problem. Tribal sentiments, ethnicity. Who has won the election? Not a Kenyan, but a Kikuyu, or a Luo, or a Kalenjin, or another person. Ethnicity. So if you have ethnicity ruling through elections, you can't have better elections. Mm-hmm. Tanzania is one key example of where I saw you, I heard you talk about Tanzania, mm-hmm. where people are going to place cases of human rights.
Yes, in the United Nations.
In the United Nations.
Yes.
Tanzania is one of the few countries in Africa mm-hmm. that holds elections it used to hold free and fair elections. The elections are beginning to bring chaos because the element of tribalism, which was killed a long time ago,
Yes.
has started surfacing. It has been growing. The people, the Maasai and the people of North Tanzania think that they have been marginalized. The ones around Arusha, Moshi, and Kilimanjaro, Serengeti, they think they own Tanzania. That nationalism, than the Swahilis and the Sukumas and the Hehes and the ones in near Mwanza, where Mr. Pombe Magufuli comes from, and the Nyerere comes from Musoma. Look at those are the areas. So people are not, they are beginning also to look into the times of tribe. That's why you see the politics in Tanzania is beginning to have
different. Yes.
Yes, it used to be the best country in Africa where you can say tribalism is not there anymore. Now we can also smell tribalism entering Tanzania from time to time.
And of course, Malawi today is going for its election, and it's just yesterday already the opposition or some section of the stakeholders who are participating in today's election came out to say the election seems to be already been rigged, and they were casting doubt and announcing themselves to be winners even before the ballots are cast.
Which elections?
Today in Malawi, it's happening.
Election where
6.8 people.
Where the leader of opposition does not have, his name is not on the ballot. His name is not in the register.
Went missing.
So it went missing. What type of election is that in Malawi?
But will that not what will bring people to not believing the results of the elections if you already have such things happen? You know the main opposition leader is going to cast their vote. They go there, the name is not present in the register.
Already there are reports of Zimbabwe officials being involved in election rigging in Malawi. Those reports came yesterday.
Yes, you're reading them.
Massive
yesterday.
street protests. Leave our country. Malawi MP tells the former police commissioner and the former director of intelligence of Zimbabwe are in Malawi rigging an election on behalf of the president. They have taken on behalf of Mutharika, they have taken a parallel tallying center, which is actually an Israeli firm, which actually did the Mugabe elections, which when you put your ballot paper, it changes the name from the Chirima to Mutharika. So when the ballot paper goes in, the electronic magnet changes the name and the ballot comes out when you are counting finally Mutharika. Is that election? Do we respect elections in Africa?
They don't mark them with a pen or it's
Even if you mark with the pen.
Because the process is not electronic, no?
The papers change. The Israelis have got that mechanism that can change the paper.
Yes.
Yes. And this is a very serious accusation that has led to so many, a fight between the Zimbabwean officials and the back at home. You see?
Oh wow! So Zimbabweans are taking their
Their technicalities.
their problems to another country.
Yes.
Because they're also having their own problems.
Bonyongwe, Chihuri, Gono fingered in the Malawi election rigging plot. So now, if we have this type of things happening in Africa, tell me that there will be an election in the Malawi.
So such things are the ones that now will make the other part come out and refuse the results of the elections. And it is the basis of the malpractices that sometimes surround a lot of these elections across Africa, that the side that has lost come out and say, no, we are not going to accept this. Normally, they feel as though it was not fair. It was not a fair playing ground.
Miriam, this starts even before before the polling stations open. People reject these results before the polling station, the polling starts. So rejection of results are already, like now in Malawi, is already done case. Kwisha. People have already made up their minds. Tomorrow preparing to go on the streets. So we don't respect elections at all. You see, this is it. Malawi opposition urges government to deport exiled Agustin Chihuri over election rigging claims. And there has been quite a lot of operations against Zimbabwe from Malawi. The G40, Mr. Moyo, Kaskwere.
What is their interest in Malawian politics?
I mean, they want to use it as a base to hit Zimbabwe. You know, there is insurgents being manufactured around there.
Yeah, we read those.
Yes, Mnangagwa should be aware. You know, don't take me that route. Yesterday I was very upset. Again, don't take me. I want to finish this show when I have not quarreled. But the way you are now taking me...
We are not quarrel. You want to quarrel with me?
I will not quarrel with you.
With Zimbabwe.
On Zimbabwe. Because Zimbabwe people don't listen.
Yes.
There is insurgency being manufactured around one of those countries. Jeffrey Smith and the Open Society Foundation are using Malawi. You know, Malawi is more or less of a donor country. It depends on donor money. It depends on NGO. That's why Grace Banda grew up through donor agency. She's an NGO woman. That's how she served the presidency. There is no Malawi economy. What do you hear about Malawi economy?
Agriculture.
That it does. It used to have very good footballers.
Yes.
Yes. Wire, Nigeria, Chura. Those were very powerful footballers.
Yes.
But that was how we used to know Malawi during one man called Kamuzi Banda.
Kamuzi Banda, yes.
The president for life. So when you see Malawi today, it depends. Malawi, every Malawian you find in a plane at Jomo Kenyatta Airport going to London, he's going to meet an NGO. Someone is waiting there from Oxfam, some NGO, they are working on mutilation, gentle, this, that. Malawi economy is basically in Africa. You can't lead Malawi without being an NGO. So we have a problem in Africa. Elections are never respected. Results are never respected. Elections in Africa create us more high blood pressure. If you look at the amount of tablets that people take during election time, the chemists are dry.
But why not, if in the cases of Nigeria, see what happened during the last elections, why would people not have mini heart attacks?
And that's it. You're asking a very credible question.
And not dispute that.
Yes. Look at what happened in Nigeria. Look at what happened in my Uganda. Look at what happened in Congo. In Uganda, it is up to today, the ballot papers have not reached a polling station that is 5 miles away from. Wasn't the elections held in 2016? The polling station, the nearest, was 5 miles away from the headquarters of the Uganda Electoral Commission. But up to today, those ballot papers have not reached.
But you know, Uganda is a very special case,
So when you can't have elections in Africa,
yes,
when you have this type of things. The best Africans can do is to sit down. The AU and the African Union should now find a way, ask African heads of state, what other method can we lead ourselves? Because every leader in the African Union is extending the constitution, removing the term limits,
murdering the constitution, mutilating it every day just to serve them. That is the
instead of them going to Addis Ababa,
the tragedy of Africa.
Exactly. Let's go there.
The mutilation of the constitution. It's terrible. it's getting us to all these problems that you're experiencing. And after that, people think, now would I even respect these results of these elections? Because a lot of the laws that govern even the electoral process have been violated. People feel like that.
That's it. Thank you very much. I think anything else, we shall come back. Let's have the energy at 3 p.m. on our favorite program, The People's Court.
Yes.
Do we visit Nigeria again?
Do we go to Biafra?
It will be hot.
And South Sudanese also want to know the latest. But yesterday you're very categorical. You seem to be you're frustrated with the situation in South Sudan.
Let's look at South Sudan, the People's Court.
The People's Court and a bit of
3 p.m.
Biafra, yes.
Does South Sudan need a tribunal? Yes or no? Wow, hiyo itakuwa moto. Sindio? Viewers, thank you very much for watching us, for watching Miriam, who has done the heaviest part this morning. Tune to us. Everybody who has information on Biafra, Nigeria, and Amazonia, we shall tomorrow in the main look at Amazonia. In the main 11 o'clock news. Are we making strides? Are we making strides in the peace process? Are we making strides in a state of Amazonia? Are we? Is there hope? Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, don't miss us on our satellite systems and everywhere. We shall discuss Amazonia, Cameroon.
All right, so at 3 p.m. East African time, South Sudan, do they need a tribunal, yes or no? And I will also get a bit of Biafra. We'll just throw in Biafra in there. There seems to be a lot of things that our viewers wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we shall compare.
So we will, yes.
States.
And see.
Biafra will come on Wednesday.
And we see the secession that became the South Sudan, and
yes.
we see how what can
the
Biafrans learn from what is happening
there.
Right? Yes, I'm actually looking now forward to that conversation at 3 p.m. East African time. So we hope that you can tune in then, and we make this show like it was yesterday. We say we leave some clips running.
Yep,
I believe. All right, we'll see you at 3 p.m.
Hey, Bura, your friend is saying. Way back in 1998, the late Secretary General of the United Nations by name Kofi Annan thought of an idea, brought an idea of saying the only way to bring world order where crimes committed that are not punishable in local courts, local countries, regional courts could be taken to an international crimes court. The Rome Statute and Rome Treaty of 1998 July was an offspring of already cooked DSGE intelligence system mechanism to keep Africa under check. Up to date, the French government pays 70% of the salaries of the International Criminal Court, from the porter to the judge, to the prosecutor, and the rest of the other people. This was a project of Kofi Annan and the Kofi Annan Foundation, followed by George Soros as an accomplice of Kofi Annan, brought in by Luis Moreno Campo and the entire system of the West, some countries in the West, to keep check on African countries that did not agree with the policies of the French and to their policies of Western culture. The International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Luis Moreno Campo agreed in all this that yes, he has been picking money, extra monies, and we followed the story together with my group in France, powerful investigators in France who worked together with me. And we found out that, truly speaking, Rui Moreno Campo, Fernandez Gumedi, the former judge, the president of the International Criminal Court, laundered money, some coming from American banks themselves. This evidence was put in the ICC. In the case of Bashir versus the chief prosecutor, I filed an application which I still have and which I'm going to publicize again so that people can know that I was right. I've been vindicated because the American friends now have found that my credibility is real, that I was right when I stood up to say this court is corrupt. This court launders money, $17 million of United States money, laundered through Bahamas, through New York banks, back to Ocampo's personal assistant, by then called Fernandez Gumedi Silvia, who later on rose to the ranks of becoming the president of International Criminal Court. It has taken us time, energy, efforts, resources to investigate the corruption scandal that have rocked the International Criminal Court. Why should African countries continue to be in the ICC? Yet even the superpowers like America are saying no, we have enough courts to try our own people. Viewers, it has taken Americans over 20 years to listen to our voices when we told Rainberger in Nairobi that this court is a corrupt court.
Today, on the eve of September the 11th, I want to deliver a clear and unambiguous message on behalf of the President of the United States. The United States will use any means necessary to protect our citizens and those of our allies from unjust prosecution by this illegitimate court. We will not cooperate with the ICC. We will provide no assistance to the ICC, and we certainly will not join the ICC. We will let the ICC die on its own. After all, for all intents and purposes, the ICC is already dead to us.
A case of the Kenyan people. These cases in Kenya, the chief prosecutor called Fatou Bensouda put serious statements at the end of the cases, discharge and termination. In legal language, these cases pose a very serious threat in the future. What the people of Kenya can do, and they should do, is today to wrap up the work envelope. Because until this envelope is sealed, thrown in Indian Ocean, the chief prosecutor in the future will come and look for that envelope, use it to incriminate people again. It brings me back to the situation. America is sealing its journey out of the ICC. Why do you wait? Why don't you take this opportunity to seal your journeys out of the ICC? America is quitting, warning that it cannot no longer be a party to such an obnoxious court, a court that has no powers, that talks from this side and vomits from the other side, a court that cuts and pastes evidence, a court that buys witnesses, a court that incites incentives, gives incentives to witnesses of a passport and a relocation, then you tell lies about people. The court that sentences you as per the words there, why should you leave a country that has a jury that checks on what the judges would do, the excesses of judges, and go to a court that has no jury? Time has come for Africa to think. Do we need this court? Does Africa need this court?
We call for a non-violent revolution. We call for a non-violent protest. We call for a non-violent march. This is what we are demonstrating to the world, and we have resisted Mr. Biya's army of occupation in our land, but this is a moment that we must continue to stand firm.
Of this nation.
Along with many other Cameroonians, many of you, as far back as the early 90s, and more frequently lately, I have insisted upon the imperative nature of genuine dialogue. Unfortunately, the government's solution has been cosmetic reforms and repression. Teachers, lawyers who raised legitimate concerns were either arrested or forced into exile. Doctors, important people in our society who asked for genuine dialogue, were met with punitive transfers and humiliation. It is regrettable that the government hasn't learned from the past.
We are ambassadors. We don't need anything again. The only solution to the matter is let the government solve this problem by giving our independent freedom.
We have a territory of our own. We recognize international boundaries. We have a language. We have a culture. We have our own laws. We have everything that is required by international standards to be a people and a nation and a state. The UN must give us this right.
We as a people, we have the right to self-determination, and we are determined to go our separate ways.
The people of the Southern Cameroons have suffered under the brutal regime of the annexationists, La République du Cameroun. We have suffered for 56 years, and we finally decided that enough is enough.
I think dialogue is the main because it's never been a solution to a problem concerning this kind of issues. So the government of Cameroon has to dialogue with the Anglophone regions to come to a compromise and let this problem be solved.
Now, we want to inform the whole world that the Southern Cameroonian prisoners of conscience in the jails of Yaoundé are on the second day of their declared hunger strike. Now, we want the entire world to know, because we are convinced that the regime in Yaoundé will be indifferent until they begin to die. While we encourage our brothers in this process, we also call on Southern Cameroonians to join them in a fasting, so that the whole world may know that we are a determined people.
Self-determination cannot be effective without self-defense. We are opposed to violence. We are opposed to war. But if La République, if the UN should continue to dilly-dally as they are doing, and La République comes now to attack our people, they are
We the Amazonians pledge our loyalty.
we discuss Africa. We see what ails Africa. And today, this afternoon, we want to see whether Sudan will permanently remain a sick child of Africa. Is it a permanent sickness? Can we resolve the issues of Southern Sudan? Is it something that has gone wrong for 200 years? There has always been a problem in Southern Sudan, in that great region, starting from all the way the Alimadi Wars and the rest of all what happened until today. Peace seems to be elusive. Why has UN taken slow action? Why hasn't UN set up a tribunal? We want to see a tribunal that will make sure that Southern Sudan people are accountable. Those who committed crimes against the human beings. 20,000 Sudanese perished. They are perished. They are not accountable. Nobody can account for them. And we cannot sit here, go on hammering peace agreements without mechanisms of accountability. If we set a tribunal for Sierra Leone, for Rwanda, for Camera Rouge, we need somebody to stand up for the poor masses that have died, the masses that continue to die, the masses that are being brutalized, murdered, maimed on a daily basis, but marauding armies of Riek and Salva Kiir. There must be an accountability. You are not going to sit here and tell people there is no accountability in Southern Sudan. There must be a tribunal. Why do we run to harass countries of Kenya, put ICC on Kenya, put ICC on this country, put ICC on Central African Republic? Why have we delayed on putting a tribunal for Southern Sudan to find out who is killing, who has been killing, how they have been killing people? Let me speak for the people in Southern Sudan, the women, the children who have not gone to school, the children who have no medicine, the children who have nothing, who have been running since 2013, and the war cannot end because of two people. Let them face the tribunal. I'm not going to keep quiet as a Pan-African to see Southern Sudan being maimed, being tortured, being cut, dismembered, and we keep quiet and watch people vote images of people, of malcontents singing to us in Uganda, in Kenya, in Ethiopia, in South Africa, telling us they have money. Let them face the international tribunal and tell the tribunal who gave them the guns, where they buying them, how they were killing people. Enough is enough. Enough is enough for Africa. We have had enough. There is no need of that anymore. Enough is enough. And if people have died, they will not cry. We people who are left on planet must cry for them. We must make sure that there are leaders who go on bragging on television stations all over the world, who are accountable. They must be behind bars.